We're going to do a quick activity, and this has to deal with why we don't like the critical reading section of the SAT. That is, why we don't like it when they give us a passage and then ask us questions. Now, in a second, I want to have you pause this video and actually write down a list of all the reasons you can think of why you hate the critical reading section. So I'll wait here, go ahead and pause the video, make your list. Okay, so I have a list too, and I will bet money that your list looks a lot like my list. So here's what my list looks like. The first and foremost reason most students don't like the critical reading section is that they feel like it's subjective. And that means that they feel like you can make an argument for more than one of the answer choices. I get that feedback from students all the time. How do I know it's B and not A? A feels right too. Why is it only B? And that's a really big thing. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but I'm going to tell you right now, very emphatically, that subjectivity is not a real issue on the SAT. Only one answer is actually correct, and only one answer is defensible. There's always something wrong with 4 of the 5 answer choices, and something that makes the 5th one correct. So that's a big issue. A lot of students worry about that, but by the time we're done, subjectivity will no longer be an issue. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, vocabulary. You know, if you don't know what words mean, or if you don't know what part of the passage means, it's going to be very difficult to answer questions. And that's a legitimate concern, right? If you don't have a strong vocabulary, no amount of technique will help you answer a question correctly. So part of getting better on the SAT is improving your vocabulary, which is why we have in this book, product placement, we have in this book the hit list, right? You gotta use these words. You gotta take the quizzes, you gotta study, right? There's no substitute for a strong vocabulary, which is gonna help you on the critical reading section and the sentence completion section. Okay, so that's the second one. The third is tough passages, right? Sometimes the passages just are, hard to understand. It's hard to understand what the author's argument is. It's hard to understand what the subject matter is. The writing is complicated. The sentences are long. And that's generally going to be the case for at least one passage on the test. Will be like a legitimately tough to understand passage. But most of the questions on the test, most of the passages on the test rather, are below your grade reading level. That is, they're designed to be understood by 7th graders, 8th graders, 9th graders. So that's not going to be a huge issue, tough passages. You will get to 1 tough passage per test at most, and it's generally going to be a function of the fact that you're scared or you have a bad vocabulary, which are 2 concepts we're really going to address. So tough passages should not be too big of a concern once you have a good technique, which we're going to talk about. All right, and lastly, boring passages. And that is a pretty universal phenomenon. Everyone thinks at least one of the passages on the SAT is boring. Generally, most students think they're all boring. So that's legitimate, right? There's nothing I can say to make you feel like a passage is not boring. There is something that I can say to make you do well on them, though, and that is, so what? Right? So what if it's boring? You're not going anywhere, right? You're sitting down, you're taking a 4-hour test. You don't get out early if you finish early, right? You don't have to find it interesting to understand it. You do lots of things in your life that are boring, but you still do them well, right? You cross the street every day when you go to school. Crossing the street, not the most interesting activity in the world, but you do it well because you know that stakes are high, right? And it's the same idea with the test. Don't let the fact that a passage is boring mess with your performance. Just do it, right? Just sort of get over the fact that it's boring. And that's my biggest piece of advice for boring passages, is just fake it. Like, so what if it's boring? Generally, the plan that we're going to discuss about how to do better on the SAT, the critical reading passages specifically, is first have a plan, that is, learn this technique that I'm going to teach you. The second is know your vocabulary, right? Improve your vocabulary, learn the hit list, make sure you get vocabulary sort of up where it needs to be. Third, know what the test makers expect, and that's a combination of having a good technique and then just sort of getting good practice, because you'll see the same types of tricks that they use over and over. Asking big questions first, or throwing in a bad word at the very end of an answer choice. Like, you'll see that they use the same tricks over and over again, and you'll see patterns emerge. The fourth round rather, is speak for yourself. That is, answer the questions in your own words, and that's the single biggest piece of improvement. We're going to spend a ton of time talking about answering the questions in your own words, and that's going to be for sentence completions and for critical reading. So make sure you're answering your own words is sort of the big takeaway from that point. And lastly is use context. One big problem that a lot of students have on the critical reading section is that they don't read enough. They think they remember it, or they don't they go back to the line that the question tells them to look at and don't look at anything else, you're going to learn that context is massively important on the test, and that if you can't find the answer to a question, chances are you're reading not enough, like you started too late or you're ending too early and it's just outside of your window. So make sure that you are reading for context. So those are the 5 things that I really want you to take away from this introduction to the critical reading section.